29 years.
Yeah, no, these are some days that we fall.
Son, he's a big history nut, and so that's why
She's like a she's got a cute back.
It's near the street.
Kim helped me that day. You go to base someplace, I'll go in.
Yeah, that's
Renee, we'll take the train anywhere. My girls like Bravo. That's what they're. My favorite last time that we went. Really good.
Yes, we're there.
Yeah, last time I went to see.
Sitting up there looking like Hitler. And what a bunch I got to put up for.
It was just the coolest thing.
That's what I heard. There's a.
My internet's not always.
We're doing the. This gallery was down. Oh, were you?
Did this interrupt your work? Maybe.
And then
He started early. Started there after lunch. No, before lunch. Hey, I know how to adjust time.
Public comment and stuff first. Okay. This is the first thing I'm doing.
I didn't eat a pickle. Because there were no pickles in it. Not the one, they're like the ones, they're in a container. I don't know if it's healthy, I don't know, should they? And they taste sour.
I was gonna say,
And it was
You're really.
I'll go stand on the other side of your shoulder.
Please.
826. Yeah, I trust. They got good number.
I'm kind of quit. It's kind of sad. Why would they?
You ever get started? Good at it.
So if you're in their first or third, you have to do one. Like that's your practice.
Come and go, yeah.
I mean, all around the building.
You have to get, if
Here's a number. 8.
Something funny.
828. Another joke.
Yay, Bridget.
you have to get.
I have 4:39. At this time, we will call the meeting of the Kansas City Commission to order. And with that, Commissioner Potter, would you lead us in the invocation?
Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here to represent the citizens of Canyon. Lord, just help us make wise decisions that are good for our constituents. And we ask this in your holy name.
And we are.
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Takes us to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 6th, 2025.
There are no changes. I move to approve as presented.
Have a motion and second to approve. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. And then approval of the minutes of the meeting, May 13th, 2025, canvassing the May 3rd, 2025 public safety bond election.
To approve as presented.
Second.
Motion second to approve. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right. That takes us to item number 6, public comment, comments from interested citizens. And we do have Christine Garner who signed in. And, Christine, if you would, we ask that you would give us your name and your address, please. So.
Sure. Yeah, it's okay.
Just trying to get out of the way for
That's
next.
My name is Christine Garner, and I'm located at 1406 South Coulter Street in Amarillo, Texas. So I am an assistant professor at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center in the School of Medicine in Amarillo. And I'm here today to tell you about Vibrant Moms, which is a phase 1 project that's been funded by the National Institutes of Health to improve maternal health. This project has been led by a coalition of 30 community organizations and reaches 6 Texas Panhandle counties, including Randall County, Potter, Duff Smith, Gray, Palmer, and Swisher counties. Maternal health is our focus because the U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed nation, and Texas ranks especially high. This means that women here are entering pregnancy less healthy, they're having more complications, and death rates are higher here in the U.S. Over the past 18 months, we conducted a community needs and assets assessment using chart reviews, surveys, interviews, and focus groups. And we identified the top maternal health concerns as preeclampsia or high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, and mental health. So preeclampsia affected 6.6% of births in these 6 counties, which is 50% higher than the national average. And preeclampsia is characterized by high blood pressure during pregnancy and can have severe consequences, including preterm birth, stillbirth, and an increased risk for cardiovascular disease later in life for both the mother and baby. We also learned that pregnant women want more education and that no local programs exist that address preeclampsia. Major barriers we identified included delayed or inadequate prenatal care, lack of insurance, low trust in the healthcare system, and challenges with distance to care and transportation to care. Communities told us that they need help with Medicaid, insurance, and enrollment, and that they wanted accessible information from trusted sources. So we recently submitted our Phase 2 proposal for a 5-year plan to implement 2 evidence-based interventions, and those are preeclampsia risk factor screening and low-dose aspirin starting after 12 weeks of gestation or 12 weeks of pregnancy. We'll launch a community-based implementation trial using 8 strategies, including training staff of community organizations as community health workers who will carry out risk factor screening, help with navigation for Medicaid and insurance, enrollment, providing referrals to clinics, education, and support for women during pregnancy. Community organizations will raise awareness, and we have 4 prenatal care clinics who will participate in activities to improve continuity and coordination. This is a research study, so we'll track uptake of interventions and acceptability and feasibility of our implementation strategies. And our ultimate goal with the Vibrant Moms Phase 2 project is to improve the health of mothers and therefore their babies in our communities. So I thank you for your time and attention, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Christine. Appreciate you being here and letting us know what you all are doing for the community.
Yeah, thank you so much. We do have, we have a community partner at West Texas A&M, as well as Panhandle Community Services, Region 16 Education Service Center, and Texas DSHS Region 1. So we have several partners who have a presence here in Canyon, and we have 30 organizations in total across the 6 counties who are participating. I do have a one-pager here that I can leave with you if you'd like.
Plan to get information out to people.
Through community health workers. So through these organizations that are participating, that's how we'll disseminate information. Yes, thank you. If you have other ideas for us, we're happy to hear them. Can I hear your hand? Thank you. Sure, thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 7, presentation of proclamation honoring retired volunteer firefighters. And really honored today, just presence of folks in this room that have just given an incredible amount of service to our community. Just very, very proud to have you all here. Very proud that you all are a part of our community as well. So, with that, I have a proclamation of the City of Canyon, Texas. Whereas the safety, security, and well-being of our community have been greatly enhanced by the dedication and service of our volunteer firefighters, and whereas volunteer firefighting is a selfless and courageous commitment that requires bravery, sacrifice, and a willingness to face danger in service to others. And whereas the City of Canyon proudly recognizes the extraordinary service of the following retired volunteer firefighters of the Canyon Fire Department, whose combined commitment of 304 years reflects an unparalleled legacy of devotion to community and public safety. Melvin Wigg, 45 years. If you would, stand as we recognize you here. Fred Wigg, 43 years. James Wiley Harp, 42 years. Dennis Gwynn, 31 years. Johnny Talent, 31 years. Gary Robinson, 30 years. William Ray Bradbury, 29 years. Vance Robinson, 28 years. And Tom Nogler, 25 years. Whereas these 9 outstanding individuals have exemplified courage, professionalism, mentorship, and deep-rooted service to the citizens of Canyon, and their legacy will serve as an enduring example for future generations. And whereas all firefighters of the Canyon Fire Department, whether career or volunteer, exemplify the highest ideals of public service by placing themselves in harm's way to protect the lives and property of others, often without recognition, and deserve our utmost respect, gratitude, and support. Now therefore, we, the Mayor and Commissioners of the City of Canyon, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Retired Volunteer Firefighter Appreciation Month in the City of Canyon, and urge all citizens to join in expressing our sincere thanks and profound appreciation to these 9 remarkable individuals and to all members of the Canyon Fire Department for their bravery, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to our community. Thank you all. Gretchen has a proclamation for each of you all, and I think we'd love to get a few pictures in here as well. So, anyone else want to? This is a remarkable group.
I'm proud of you guys. This is awesome. It's a great way to honor you guys. Appreciate your service to our city.
There's no greater service than someone that's willing to volunteer and give that without a lot of recognition. So thank you for that time that you take away from other people, that your loved ones and other things that are going on in your life, to do that.
We can get a quick picture.
Yes.
All the commissions step in front, and then everyone, if y'all will step in front as well. Fire, I'll have y'all join in the next photo.
It's a learner.
Okay, instead of being in a straight line, we're gonna have to have these layers, so if y'all, we can do that too.
Want to turn sideways?
Squeeze, yeah, let's do that. Gary, if you'll go right here.
We need to change, I guess,
Oh,
from the
we get,
middle.
okay, tall guys, tall guys in the back.
They're in the middle.
Ray, that means you get in front.
Some of us in back here.
Well, I can't kneel down because I can't get up.
I can relate to that quite well.
Sorry about that. There we go. Oh, that's perfect. Smile. Okay, everyone look at me just for a second. 1, 2, 3. That's awesome.
Cheese.
Cheese. Okay, great. And if I can get fire staff to join? We're gonna have to do some layers. Come forward. Squat? No, we'll just, if everyone can find a window, you can go there.
That's all right.
If you'll go.
Help get back up, Gina.
I'll help you get up. I think.
There we go. Oh my goodness, what a group. All right, everyone look at me, please. 1, 2, 3.
Say cheese, I'll say pipe.
Sorry. Good, did everyone get their photos?
Well, could we tell some stories?
Thank you all so much.
See you, Ray.
Congratulations.
And all of y'all can leave.
Thank you. The rest of this.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I don't have to stay for the rest.
Stay or leave. Hey, how you doing? You don't melt your brother in here.
How you doing? Forever.
I know. Y'all will probably, it's gonna be a long one. Y'all
It's gonna be a long one.
If I had a chance, can I sneak up with you?
You wouldn't stay?
I don't have a choice.
I didn't have to.
I got 3 women at the house
It's
waiting.
executive session. Oh, I guess, not the.
23, 1 5, and 1 6 months.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, you have the chair.
Thank you, guys.
Nope, not at all. I love you sitting right there, actually. That means I can take a nap or start texting. Cody sends me text messages. Get all on your phone.
Stop it.
All right, takes us now to the oath of office for Mayor Place 1 and Commissioners Place 2, 3, 4, and 5, duly elected for the purposes of the May 3rd, 2025 general election.
Thank you, Mayor. So each member of the city commission ran unopposed this time, and now it's time to swear you in for the new term. Each of you has signed the statement of elected official before the meeting today, and I'll just read it one time and get each one of you to affirm it. You've declared under the penalty of perjury that you've read the foregoing statement and that the facts stated therein are true. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. You so affirm?
I do.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to administer the oath, starting with the mayor. If I could read it back to you, Mayor, and get you to affirm this. Repeat after me. I, Gary Henders,
I, Gary Henders,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of Mayor Place 1
the duties of the office of Mayor, Place 1
of the City of Canyon,
of the City of Canyon,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my abilities
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. And if I get- Mayor Pro Tem, can you repeat after me?
I'll try.
I, Cody Jones,
I, Cody Jones,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties
the duties
of the office of Commissioner Place 2
of the office of Commissioner Place 2
of the City of Canyon,
of the City of Canyon,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And Commissioner Lyons, if you would repeat after me. I, Paul R. Lyons,
I, Paul R. Lyons,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties
the duties
of the office of Commissioner Place 3
of the office of Commissioner, Place 3
of the City of Canyon,
of the City of Canyon,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will,
and will,
to the best of my ability,
best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United
of the
States
United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Robin Cramner, Commissioner, Place 4. If you could repeat after me, Robin. I, Robin Cramner,
I, Robin Cranmer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties
the duties
of the office of Commissioner, Place 4
of the office of Commissioner, Place 4
of the City of Canyon,
of the City of Canyon,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will,
and will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And Commissioner Potter, Place 5. If you could repeat after me. I, Danny Potter,
I, Danny Potter,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties
the duties
of the office of Commissioner, Place 5,
of the
office of Commissioner, Place 5
office of the Commissioner, Place 5
of the City of Canyon,
of the City of Canyon,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will,
and will,
to the best of my ability,
to my best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And we will, after those documents are signed, I will countersign them and we'll give them to Gretchen for safekeeping.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. We're off for another round here.
Yes, sir.
All right, item number 9, consider and take appropriate action on election of Mayor Pro Tem, of the City of Canyon Commission. Gretchen, are you?
Yes, sir. Due to, as it states in our charter, after every election, we re-elect or elect a mayor pro tem. So I have provided a little cute ballot, and if you don't have a pencil, there's a little pencil. If all of y'all will just mark whoever you want.
I need to do that. It's Cody marked out the one I already did.
I do have extras.
That's awesome.
Cody, stay in your lane.
Yes, ma'am. Harvesting.
If we come up with 6 votes, we know there's a problem.
Count the checks.
There's no writing candidates either, Cody.
Yeah, I've already discounted that one.
Congratulations, man.
Well, it really is an honor, actually. I'm glad to do all the stuff that the mayor chooses not to do for whatever reason.
You gotta go clean some toilets later, Cody.
Fair enough. Won't be my first time.
Thank you all very much. We're done with the election.
Yay.
All right, item number 10, consider and take appropriate action on donation of property by Jim and Sharon Brown for use as an animal shelter location. Chuck?
Yes, sir. It's very promising when we get citizens willing to step up and donate land to the city for public use. Jim and Sharon have been in contact with John Burns, our assistant city manager, and in discussions with him concerning the possible use of this land for an animal shelter. That resulted in John and I visiting. I prepared a donation agreement. The Browns looked it over, signed it, and have requested the city accept the gift. We're not aware of any unknown or hazardous factors affecting this land. We don't see any reason why the city should not accept the gift. Therefore, it is our recommendation that the city do accept the gift of land, which is described in your agenda packet and in the donation agreement. I have prepared a proposed special warranty deed. If the commission accepts the gift, I will also ask the city manager be authorized to countersign the agreement on behalf of the city, which does contain a time frame. It does contain a 5-year time frame within which the construction of the animal shelter must be started. If for any reason the animal construction, shelter construction is not started within that 5-year time frame from tonight, if the donation is accepted, then we would be obligated to reconvey the property to the Browns if we decide not to use it for that purpose. So it is our recommendation that the action be taken to accept the donation of property from Jim and Sharon Brown and to authorize the city manager to act in the transaction.
So move.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I want to say one thing. Sharon spoke with me about this, and she would be here tonight if it wasn't for some health issues. But she's very adamant about making this happen. This is something that she's really looked forward to for a while, so.
All right. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, and yes, much gratitude to the Browns for the heart for this, and recent bond election is a piece in making this a reality, and so, anyway, sure appreciate Jim and Sharon.
And we'll take care of the paperwork.
All right, item number 11, consider and take appropriate action on all matters incident and related to the early payoff of a portion of City of Kenyon, Texas General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 2021, representing the Series 2013 portion thereof, including the adoption of resolution number 20-2025. Joe?
Mayor. We've been talking about doing this for a while. This is the Series 2013 bonds that were actually a refunding of two other bond issues, 2004 and 2007. These were refinanced in 2013, and then they're refinanced again in 2021. And for some reason in all of that, the large annual payments ended this year with the February 15th payment that we made. And then there were two small payments of $90,000 each for the next 2 years. And so we've kind of had that on our calendar, on our radar for quite a while, just to go ahead and pay this part of the 2021 refunding bonds. Just go ahead and pay it off and free up that cash for future budget years. So that's what we're proposing, that this go ahead and be paid off, and so it requires a resolution because of these being outstanding bonds that are in the hands of investors. It requires the commission to act on this resolution, and then we'll proceed with the process of paying off this last $180,000 on that issue. Are there any questions?
And Joel, these funds in, I know, is this into the INS? What?
The source of these would be excess revenues in the utility fund. That's the source of the revenues for making this debt service payment. It's not a tax-related debt.
Okay.
So this would provide for freeing up cash to pay on the 2025 series when those debt service payments come due starting next year.
My only question is then, does that affect our reserve then? Does that take it down more then to?
It'll be $180,000 that we'll take out of current. We've actually budgeted for this. We budgeted for this in the 24-25 budget. So it is a budgeted expenditure out of the utility fund.
I move we approve.
A second.
Have a motion second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Joe. All right. Item number 12, presentation of potential 2025-2026 changes to charges and fees. Bo?
Thank you, Mayor. Part of the annual budgeting process is to review our current fee schedule, analyze any changes that may be necessary. This year, we wanted to provide an opportunity to discuss what fee staff are looking at before we ask for any changes to the fee schedule themselves. So this is just for presentation purposes only, for questions, for discussion, just to let y'all know right now what staff is thinking along the lines of fees for the next fiscal year. The first one we're going to start with is the commercial sewer account. And actually, question, if you can go to PDF page 33. I want to look at our current fee structure for sewer. Right there. So the first ones that are highlighted there, looking at commercial, it's our minimum fees for commercial accounts. There's SW3, SW4, SW5, and each that minimum monthly fee is a different amount, trying to base it off of what kind of business it is. The problem with this is it really makes a lot of assumptions out of how each of those businesses operate and the demand that those businesses are putting on our sewer system. One restaurant may have equipment for collecting grease, one may not, and maybe putting more grease in our sewer system. With this, we're making the assumption that everybody's operating the same way, and it's really hard to set that minimum fee in a fair manner. The other item I want to point out is the minimum fee includes the first 25,000 gallons for sewer. That is very high. And then if you look at the different tiers after that, and I kind of put a column on the side where you can see kind of a calculated per gallon fee. So the minimum fee for the first 25,000 gallons for SW3, $30.85. So if they had zero sewer consumption, their fee would be $30.85. If they go all the way up to 25,000 gallons, which just covers, they're only paying $1.23 per 1,000 gallons. If they consume 26,000, let's say go up one more 1,000, they come down here. So they go from $1.23 per 1,000 gallon to $4.78 per 1,000 gallon. That is a very large jump just for 1,000 more gallons in sewer consumption, in water consumption for sewer. So having it tiered this way with such large gaps, it's not really, in our opinion, billing fairly when we could actually be condensing that to be more related to actual consumption. Then there's a question of how do we interpret this? If we use the lens of the way that our water fees are assessed, You've got tier 1 for 25,000 gallons, and then on top of that, the next 25,000 gallons would be billed at this amount, and then tier 3 would be billed at this amount. If we use that same logic, we would have that minimum fee, let's say $30.85 plus $120.08, and then if they have a consumption that goes to tier 3, we add an additional $281.58. But we don't interpret it that way because it's not very clear. We interpret it right now the way that benefits the customer more. So if they spend 51,000 or consume 51,000 gallons of water, they are billed only $280.58. It doesn't compound. It's just not very clear in the language, though, as to whether it should be compounded or not. We're just interpreting it in a way that benefits the customer more right now. Now, if you'll go to, if you'll scroll down to the bottom of this page here, I want to point out this WT cooling tower volumetric rate. This is one account. This one account has water consumption over the period that we're looking at for 1 year, over 85 million gallons of water, one account. When we look at all of our commercial accounts combined, that one account accounts for almost 40% of all of our sewer billed consumption, one account. So there was a study that was done back, we assume somewhere around 2018, that looked at that actual account, the cooling towers there at WT, how much of that water is actually being evaporated and how much is actually going and impacting our sewer system. The percentage that they came to was 40%. So their consumption, only 40% of their consumption was billed, and they originally set that at a rate of $5.77 back in May of 2018. The following ordinance for sewer fees that went into effect October of 2018 failed to include that 40% for that one account. They continued to only be billed at 40%. It just was not included in the ordinances. So right now, they're being billed at what was the education rate of $6.06 per 1,000 gallons at 40% of the consumption, and they are still being billed at that today. That's this one account, but because it's such a large impact on our sewer fee revenue, I wanted to make sure that I did include that it just not glanced over, that it's just one line in there. That is a large percentage of our sewer fee revenue. Go to the next page, on page 34. This is a look at the number of counts for commercial sewer fees and where they kind of fall on the scale. So SW3, those commercial accounts, there's 229 of those accounts. 69 of those have less than 1,000 gallons of water consumption on average each month. SW4, 48 total accounts there, with 5 there at the top with less than 1,000. For SW5, there's 26 accounts. Education, that does include Canyon ISD and all WT accounts except for that one. There are 30 accounts there, and then you see that one WT account, which is their cooling towers. So looking at all these, a total of 334 accounts. Looking at just SW3 through SW5, it's just 303 accounts there. Double check I'm not losing myself on my notes here. So if you'll go back one page, Gretchen, to that first, I want to look at where we would be for a commercial account for 50,000 gallons. As you can see, that's tier 2 right here. So they'd be paying $120.08. TML does a survey every year for Texas cities to try to compare what other cities are billing for their water and their sewer fees. If you'll go back to page 23, keep that number $120.08 in your mind. Sorry, keep going. Maybe not 23, keep going down. Other way. Next page, yeah, that one right there. So 239 cities responded to this survey in 2004. They have not released the 2005 survey results yet. But average for a commercial account with 50,000 gallons is $222.95. For Canaan, it's $120.08. Gretchen, if we go down 2 more pages, you can see here are cities with our population range of 15,001 to 20,000. There we are on the bottom. Right now it says 113.28. That was our rate in 2004. Now it is 120.08. We are not only below average, we are more than $100 lower than the next lowest city. Our commercial fees comparably to other cities are very low. So I want to look at, if we'll go back to page 45. When setting a new rate structure, yeah, PDF 45.
It's not numbered.
Right there, 40, yeah. So there are the main goal in setting a new structure is we wanted something simple, something that the public would understand, something that would be easy to communicate, that wouldn't have all these, a full page of verbiage to try to explain what somebody is paying for the commercial sewer account. When we looked at 21 other cities and what their fee structure is, those were all the pages that Gretchen just scrolled through. There are a certain number of items that we liked that other cities were doing. One, a minimum fee for all accounts. Very easy for people to understand. And then the volumetric rate beginning at the first 1,000 gallons. Other cities, if there was a specific business type identified, it was the exception to the rule. It wasn't the rule that everything else was based on. So another things that we were considering is also the addition of an industrial commercial fee. Right now, that would only include one account, which would be Lone Star. But looking forward to the future, what else would we need when that need arises? We want to go ahead and put that in place. For that, the minimum fee would be 4 times the regular commercial accounts, and setting a fee that we would need for the volumetric. For the education accounts, we didn't really want to make a big change there. Still only billing 58% of their consumption, and then the set rate for that as well. But the second goal in setting these fees is we had a set dollar amount that were already projected for us to receive in the next fiscal year in order for us to make our CO debt payment. That amount was $862,235. Everything in our scenarios is set to generate that amount of revenue that we need to make that CO. So we reverse calculate the minimum fee or the volumetric fee to generate that amount. And I want to look at the scenario number 1. Oh, no, you were on our page. Go back up. Yeah, number 1 right there, highlighted at the top there with blue. What if there was no minimum fee? What would the volumetric rate need to be, starting with 1,000 gallons, for us to generate the revenue that we need? What would that volumetric rate be? And you can see there for commercial accounts, it's $5.30 per 1,000 gallons. Say, okay, well, scenario number 2, what if we set a minimum fee of $29.50? That is our current residential flat fee for sewer. So what if the minimum fee for commercial was that same amount? What would the volumetric rate then need to be? That goes to $3.84. Scenario number 3, $30.85. That is the current minimum fee for SW3 commercial accounts. So what if we move the minimum fees to just that lower minimum fee, but we're now charging it to everybody, all commercial accounts? That volumetric rate would then need to be $3.82. And then the 3506, there's kind of a calculation there. What if commercial accounts were paying the same fee as education accounts? So there's a little math here. Right now, the education rate is 58% of $6.42. So that comes to roughly $3.72. So if we set that as our volumetric rate, what would the minimum fee then need to be? That'd be $35.06. And the final $36.48 minimum fee, that's kind of the average that was actually paid for all the commercial accounts over the time period that we're looking at. That would then require a volumetric rate of $3.70. Of these scenarios, staff prefers scenario 3. And if I can, Gretchen, if you'll go down or back to page, let me double check my notes here. Back to page 34. So with scenario 3, all of these 69 accounts there in SW3 that had less than 1,000 consumption, nothing would change for them. They would pay the same amount. These SW4 and SW5, these 6 accounts here that also had 0, their minimum fee would drop down to the same minimum fee as SW3. But then everybody else here would pay that minimum fee plus a volumetric rate. Now, right now, these are the accounts with 25,000 gallons or less. So all these accounts right now are not paying a volumetric rate. If we switch to this, they would now be paying a minimum fee and a volumetric rate. Also, with that scenario 3, that amount for 50,000 gallons that we were looking at before to compare to other cities, that would increase from that $120.08 to try to keep you from going through all those pages there. It would go to $221.85, still below average. And if we look at that page that had all the cities that were the very same size, that 15,000 population to 20,000, we would still be the lowest on that list for consumption of $50,000.
Gallons.
50,000 gallons. Thank you. A lot of information all at once, I know. And I welcome questions, any other scenarios y'all would like to see.
Would you highlight a little bit of the research you did to lead us to today? I know you've got all the other cities in here.
Yes.
Will you talk a little bit on that?
We started this analysis in August of last year. And by we, I mean our public works department, our sewer department, our water department, our billing department. We've been looking at this for a very long time. And one of the first things we looked at were those 21 cities. We tried to look at cities that had a university, and then those that also came onto the list of in that population range that we saw on that TML. What we were looking for initially was, what are other cities charging for education? You know, these other cities with universities, what are they charging the universities? Nobody put on their fee schedule what they were charging universities. The assumption there is they have an agreement with those entities for those rates. We were also looking to see what other cities were identifying specific businesses. We wanted to try some of those. Very difficult to find those. I think I found Clarendon on there. It has a different rate for their car washes. But again, that was the exception to the rule. That was not the foundation of their rules. We spent a lot of time looking over those different scenarios. We looked at Amarillo. We looked at New Braunfels, Mansfield. There were a lot of interesting ideas. I'm trying to go through and see if I can think of any. I mean, you can go 4 pages up. Oh, no, sorry, wrong direction. Let's go down. Let's start right there. So there's some examples of some really simple ones. It ranges from just 2 lines to, there are some examples where it takes an entire page to explain what those fees are. We wanted to get away from the full page. We wanted simple to understand, for somebody to calculate for themselves so that they're not surprised when they get their bill. They know what to expect. There were some differences on meter sizes. Some base their sewer fees based on meter sizes. We considered that. We also thought, well, we're already.
Amarillo does.
Amarillo does, yes. We're already doing that on the water side. We're billing them at a higher rate for the demand on our water system that the meter size impacts. Didn't necessarily want to do that again on the sewer side because it's not necessarily hand in hand. Some try to define business type. There's a lot of interesting ones in there where they overlap with the residential, so some multi-unit apartments are then also paying the same fee as some commercials. So anything with 3 or more unit may be paying the same fee for the sewer as a commercial account is. There are some very interesting ones. Scroll down a little bit more. Keep going. Yeah, there's Amarillo's there. As you can see, it's based on meter size for their minimum. And then their per gallon fee is within that paragraph there. Very difficult to decipher how they have it listed. Small service, commercial, large, but if you look at the description, they just define a small service commercial by the meter size. Large is then 1 inch or higher. So even though they call it small service, large service, they're still basing it off a meter size there. New Braunfels we thought was interesting. They have all these different tiers, but their rate and all their tiers are the same. There's another meter size. Yeah, so Donna there has a different rate there for senior citizens. Brenham was another one that was close to our size, city-wise, and they're the ones that would be the next lowest rate for 50,000 gallons of consumption, just above where we are. Welcome any other questions y'all have.
I see that you compared to other cities, cities like size. Have you run those calculations to see what the impact would be on local business?
Yes, I have. That is, if you'll scroll down, Gretchen. Next page. First, this one shows a selection of local businesses, their monthly average consumption, where they fall right now on our billing scale as SW3, SW5, what their current billing would be on our current structure using their average consumption, and then you've had the 5 different scenarios of what their annual sewer fee would be with those different scenarios. If you scroll down to the next page, it's those same businesses, same average monthly consumption, same R classification, but what they would be paying in those different cities on their structure.
I'm sorry, I know you just said this, but how did you select those businesses?
Input from staff, especially from our billing department, as some that would be really good examples. If you, I want to make sure I included some that have zero consumption. So here, BJM has zero consumption, but they are an SW4. Playhouse Daycare, less than 1,000 consumption, but they're an SW5. You have some that fall within the high and low range of those different tiers within our current billing structure.
When I was going through it, I thought it was interesting that our rates look different than Amarillo's, but when you look at it compared to the specific businesses, it looks like our rates are higher.
Comparing what's actually being charged and yeah, they're, if you go down, back next page.
And that's not always the case, but pretty often.
Yeah, it depends on where they fall on the high end of the tier or the low end of the tier. You can see there's Amarillo right there. that
Right.
column. If there are no more questions about sewer, I can move on to water.
And one of the big things when we talk utility billing is just trying to simplify it more than anything else and trying to stop doing SW 3, 4, and 5. That was a huge part of it as well. If you do look at those other cities, there is not another single city that we have found that does wastewater rate structuring the way we do. In terms of the way it's structured. We have not been able to find a single one. That's, in my mind, that's telling.
Move on to water. If you'll go on to the next page there, Gretchen. These are the suggested rates per our new gen rate study that we completed back in 2023. You see where we initially started. Right now, we are in year 2. We will be moving to year 3. So the highlighted are the proposed rates for our water service for year 3. And just keeping on track with what that initial plan was. If you'll go to the next page, that plan does not include 8-inch meters. So we now have 2 8-inch meters in the city, and we set that rate for the first time this year based off of a 52% increase from the 6-inch to the 8-inch. That was based on a study of a lot of the cities that we had just looked at. What is the difference between their 6-inch meter and their 8-inch meter fee? And 52% was that average. So if we apply that 52% again, for 6-inch using a new gen study, it'd be at $476.50. It would increase to $724.28. And that's our water fees. Next is the golf course fees. We have been increasing the fees in order to pay for the golf irrigation debt. And meeting with Casey, our golf director, people are tired of us increasing our fees. So we want to make sure next year we do it one more time and it's set at a rate that's going to supply us with what we need and also some for operations. I did a little calculation there. Right now, that CIP is at $11 for a green fee. If we have 29,000 rounds per year, what we'll need to make that debt payment will be $12.11. So a $1.11 increase for that. But the last 3 years, we've been averaging about just over 31,000 rounds for the last 3 years. If I use that number of rounds, we only need $11.76 to make sure we have that debt payment covered. So that's a 76-cent increase. On the operational side, you can see there how much we need to transfer from the utility fund to the golf fund to make up the deficit in the golf course. In the current fiscal year, we have a budgeted transfer of $713,856. So we like to include something in next year's green fees to apply to that, to lessen that deficit from the golf course. Now, Casey did some great analysis of the different fees and came up with an interesting proposal for fees for next year. And we're comparing Community Trail, Ross Rogers, and then you see our current fee structure now and the proposed fee structure for next year. So for weekday green fees, right now the total is $31, with $11 of that going to the CIP fund. Proposal for weekday would be $32, a $1 increase. So that increase is going $12 for CIP and still remaining $20 for operating. For weekend, and you see most of these major increases are for weekend increases. Right now it's $36 with an increase for next year to $40. That increase in CIP is from 11 to 13, but you also see a $2 increase in the operating from $25 for operating to 27. This pattern kind of continues through the rest of the fees there. We see a small increase for the weekday, but a larger increase on the weekend, which provides for the debt payment as well as an increase for operations. Then also for permits, the next kind of bold green there. Right now for a senior permit, it's $690 a year. There'd be an increase to $760. That increase is all being applied to operations. And very similar pattern with the other permits as well. I say permits lowest because Comanche Trail, Ross Rogers, they have a plethora of different permit fees. For comparison, I use their base lowest permit fee to compare to our own. Then for golf carts are getting more expensive. We are projecting to need to purchase golf carts here in the next couple years. Would have been scheduled for next year with lithium batteries. We believe we can probably move that back another year, but we want to start preparing now to build the cash to make that payment. So you see the $1 increase in the cart rentals going to the cart capital fee. All right, those are our golf fees. For cap admissions, currently Monday through Thursday, it's $6. For Friday through Sunday, it's $8. Last price increase was the summer of 2022, and we're proposing a $1 increase for those. When we're looking at our long-term projection, this will help us maintain an operating loss directly from the cap below $80,000. There are further projections there on the next page where you can see highlighted there the application of that fee increase. If expenses continue, if you scroll down just a little bit for me, Gretchen, right there, lower projected loss. Current budget is 85, it'll lower to 38. Keep that the same for the next 5 years. A possible, this increase in concessions might happen progressively over the year. We just expect by that 5th year, it will come out to be about a 20% increase in our concessions. And we'll be looking at a possible season pass increase of about 20% in fiscal year 29-30. So the goal there is a bottom line, keeping that below $80,000 and making sure we have set the fees for not exceeding that limit as costs continue to increase year after year. All right, and finally, on the last page, some other potential fee changes. Cat 10 visit pass, $3 increase there. Cat birthday party, $10 increase there for the birthday parties. In parks, Brown Road baseball field, we're currently converting the Brown Road baseball fields to more soccer fields, so those baseball fields are no longer there. Just want to take that off of the fee schedule and change it to actually Paul Lindsay baseball practice fields. For planning development, 3 new fees. One for working without a required inspection. First offense is $250. Subsequent offenses is $500. A new fee for same-day inspections of $150 for any same-day inspections required under existing or new permits. Then zoning change request, a $50 increase. Zoning specific use permit, $50 increase. Board of Adjustment appeal or variance request, $50 increase. Subdivision development final plat fee, $150 flat fee increase there. Subdivision development replat fee, it's at $200. We want to add that additional $10 per acre over 1 acre. And then the same there with the subdivision development preliminary plat subdivision fee, adding that additional $10 per acre, more than 1 acre.
On those planning and development fees, where'd y'all come up with those numbers?
So that was something that I looked at comparing to Amarillo. Their zoning change fee is around 800. And so I was just increasing us to get us closer to covering some of our costs with holding those meetings, sending out those letters. So I did marginal increases on all of our zoning specific use permits. That came up in a meeting that I had with the planning department up there. And then same with the platting fees. We had the lowest platting fees I could find anywhere. And a lot of the cities have that per acre charge. And so I thought that was a good way to do it because then you're kind of paying for what you're platting. So that's where I adopted that. Lubbock and Amarillo both have that per acre charge on top of their flat fees. But ours are still remain the lowest.
I know this was a lot at once, so I appreciate y'all's consideration for these. I wanted to make sure that these were presented to y'all before we asked for authorization so that you had time to review and time to understand all of these potential changes.
Golf course is the one place where substantially less is on juniors. And our thought there as far as, is that a big number that we have
Well,
juniors?
Comanche and Ross allow juniors to play for free. We're not less, we're actually $15 more, so.
It says 22 to 25. So.
Well, they have what's not included on that deal, and because it is confusing looking at their website a little bit, is that Monday through Friday they allow that, and that should actually be junior, senior on that junior deal, because it's actually their senior rate. And then Monday through Friday, they allow all their juniors to play for free. From what I've read, and from the signs I've seen that 3 years ago when I was at Ross, when I got to play there once.
You know, from a business standpoint, I do like the increase on the weekends. I think that makes sense, you know, look at doing it that way.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank y'all.
Thank you both. All right, item number 13, hold public hearing and consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1227, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, establishing Chapter 9, Article 9.06, capital recovery fees, establishing water, wastewater, and roadway capital recovery fees, establishing procedures for the assessment, computation, collection, deposit, refund, expenditure, and general administration of said capital recovery fees, establishing an appeal procedure, establishing an effective date, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. Lucas?
Absolutely. So I'll kind of kick us off here, and then we do have Andrew with Freeze Nichols here for a presentation. But just to give you all some more background, City of Canyon hired Freeze Nichols as a consultant to perform this capital recovery fee study. That process is outlined very specifically in state law. We followed that process up to this point. The goal of that study was to identify the expected growth that the City of Canyon will experience in the next 10 years, and then also identify the infrastructure projects associated that will be necessary to accommodate that growth. After that, we calculate the amount of infrastructure increase costs that will directly result from that growth, and then cut that fee in half. Andrew will talk a whole lot more about that to calculate some maximum fees. We'll present this slide deck to you tonight. You do have a packet in front of you all that have those slides if you'd like to see them up close. Thank you, Andrew, for printing those out. We'll talk through the Capital Infrastructure Advisory Committee meeting that we had back in March, and about that discussion that we had and where their recommendation came out and where our staff recommendation is. But without further ado, I'll let Andrew come forward and give you all a presentation, and then we'll be able to answer lots of questions. Talk through it.
Thanks, Lucas. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank y'all for having me out this evening. Do you mind scrolling through this whole, we're not going to go through the report itself. I've got some slides starting on this page. I believe it's going to be, that's about a 65-page document there. So you can keep going through all this. Probably going to be in like the 120s. Okay. Yeah, as Lucas says, this is a process that's defined by Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code that lays out all the required steps we have to do in order to go through this process. That's right there. Thank you. We had a public hearing, I believe it was in October of 2024, where the City Commission approved the growth rates, the land use assumptions, and all the projects that were identified to be included into this program. So that was public hearing number 1. Here we are in public hearing number 2, where I will be going through all of the calculations that came, the technical result of the study says that if you were to impose a fee structure such as this, here's the maximum dollar amount that you're able to assess. And as Lucas said, we have staff recommendation, and we also have recommendations that was provided by the advisory committee. So I'll kind of go through, I'll step through all the maximum allowable calculations first.
Andrew, do we need to open the public hearing up before you get started, or just do it right after?
Right after the presentation. Okay. Yes, sir. So we'll go through all the 3 different components: the water, wastewater, and roadway capital recovery fee maximum allowable calculations. We've got some other slides that do some benchmarking as well as showing some sample calculations of what a program could theoretically look like. Go to the next slide, please. So it's really kind of a straightforward calculation there. You can see really the components are, you identify the projects, you identify what an eligible cost of that project would be, and really what that is a percentage or a ratio of the total project costs. And what we do is we basically identify what the eligible portion of that cost is by looking at how much of that project capacity is utilized within the identified 10-year growth window for the study period. So we're looking at 2025 as our base year, going out 10 years into 2035. So we identify our eligible cost. State law says you are required to provide a 50% credit. If you do not do a 50% credit, you're required to do a detailed financial analysis. At the very start of this project, it was identified we're going to go the 50% credit method. So you have your costs, and then you're divided by the amount of growth you're adding over the 10-year time frame. We have what we call single-family living unit equivalents. That's really going to be what we're calling the base unit, which really is going to represent a single-family home. And so that total 10-year growth, you have the cost divided by your growth is really how you're going to calculate the maximum allowable fee. So I'll move into looking at on the water wastewater side of things. This is going to be the potential fees are assessed based on meter size. You can see the meter size we have, the meter sizes we have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Hearing the last presentation, we have 8-inch meters in Canyon now, so we might have to look at making a potential amendment to the report, but we'll talk about that later. But really, the theory here is basically a smaller meter passes so much water, larger meters pass more water, and so that ratio of, if you look at the ratio of the 2-inch to the 1-inch, so a 2-inch meter can pass 2.5 times more than a 1-inch meter. So the state law says that you can impose a fee up to 2.5 times that base meter size. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and then those service unit equivalents of 1 going all the way up to 20. So the way these are calculated is using American Water Works Association, AWWA standards of saying what is the safe maximum operating capacity of said meters. Go to the next slide, please. So looking at the projected service unit over the 10-year time frame, you can see the different meter sizes, 5/8 all the way up to 6-inch. If you'll notice, the 5/8, 3/4, and 1.5-inch, those are not meters that are currently used in Canyon anymore or offered. So you don't see any growth in 10-year service units. The majority of the projected service units would be occurring on the 1-inch meter size, which makes sense, is really where a lot of your residential and then some of your other commercial meters would be looking at doing a 1-inch meter with some future projections for some of those other meter sizes as well. Really, all this table boils down to the bottom right hand of the table is the growth in service units over the 10-year time frame, 846 units. So if we go back and look at that little math calculation I showed, that's going to be the denominator in our equation. So looking at the eligible water CIP, it's a very grainy map, but what you kind of notice here is that the majority of the projects are really going to be situated on the northern side of Canyon. We've got a mix of groundwater wells, piping, we got elevated storage tank, really all of some of the major water projects that are required in order to help serve where we feel our growth is coming in over the next 10 years. If you zoom out just a little bit, that's an inset on the bottom right. We've got another 12-inch line that was identified kind of in the southeastern portion of the city as well. So we've got a total of, I believe, 8 projects, if you go to the next page. So the table lines out all the different projects and what their percent utilization is from existing into the 10-year total. And so you have a total projected cost, and then the total projected cost times that increase of utilization, so 812,000 times 30% gives you that eligible cost, $243,600. So that's a little bit of the methodology of kind of how the eligible water cost was calculated. Go to the next slide, please. So looking at our math equation again, we have the total CIP cost of $10.3 million. That eligible cost is now moved down to basically $2.55 million. State law allows us to incorporate financing costs as part of the overall project cost. So we've got a financing cost of $1.06 million. So that total eligible cost, $3.6 million. Now we have to do our 50% credit by state law. So now we're at $1.8 million. And then we divide that by our growth in service units, that 846. So that gives us a maximum allowable fee that we could charge of $2,138 for our base 1-inch meter. So I'll move over onto the wastewater side. Again, it's going to be the same thought process, same methodology here. We've got some sewer lines up north. We've got some lift stations. We've got to move. If we've got growth up north and we've got new water customers, we've got to find a way to get the wastewater down to our plant, which is on the southern side of the city. So we've got a handful of projects there as well. Same thing, you see some other lift station projects going to be on that kind of south and eastern portion of the city as well. So we've got a total here of 7 projects. On the next slide, please. Thank you. So we've got the increase over time of existing utilization to projected 10-year utilization. Go to the next slide, please. We've got total wastewater costs, $13.9 million. The eligible portion of that $13.9 million is $3.2 million, adding $1.3 million for our financing costs. Our total eligible cost, $4.5 million. 50% credit, $2.2 million divided by 846. So that allows for a maximum fee of up to $2,703. So that's water and wastewater. Moving into the roadway side of things. The roadway, the state law dictates we can only have so large of a service area in order to assess these fees. And so what we had to do is we actually had to split the service of the city into two service areas. There's a north and a south. You'll see it on the next slide of kind of how those service areas were derived. And we did projections there as well of how much growth are we adding to our roadway system. And this is going to be in terms of vehicle miles. You can see in the north, our service area, we are adding a total of 1,201 vehicle miles to the roadway system, and then in the south, we have 579. The roadway eligible CIP that was developed, we have one project. We have Hunsley Road. We're looking at doing an expansion of Hunsley Road to add more capacity in order to help accommodate future growth and development. Next slide, please. So Hunsley Road from FM 2590 over to US 287, the eligible cost for making those capacity improvements, $1.42 million. If you go to the next slide, please. Now, so we're looking at, so $1.42 million is the total eligible cost. 50% credited, $711,000 divided by the service units. That's going to be in the northern service area because this project resides in that northern service area. So $711,000 divided by 1,201 vehicle miles is a fee of $592 for the base unit, or that's going to be the maximum allowable for the base vehicle mile. I showed you the calculations for the 1-inch meter. It's pretty straightforward. If you have a single-family home, you would add the 2,100, the 2,700. On the roadway side of things, we have to look at calculating by different land use, how much does one single-family home generate from a vehicle mile standpoint? It's not just a factor of 1, it's actually a factor of 1.3. I know everybody, it's in the agenda packet in the report here. There is a table that has quite a few land uses that shows you what are the vehicle miles that are calculated for all these different types of land uses. So 1.3 is really what you get from a single family home. So you take that 592 times 1.3, that gives you a maximum allowable fee for a single family home of just under $770. So in summary, you can see the maximum allowable fees as the results of the technical study that was conducted, $2,138 for water, $2,703 for wastewater, and $592 for roadway. That yields a total allowable fee of, maximum allowable fee of $5,433. So that's the results of the study. In working with city staff, the recommendation that was made would be to have a base service unit of $450 for water, $750 for wastewater, and $230 for roadway. So that's a total of $1,430. Now, looking at a proposed fee schedule based on those two items, so you could see the maximum allowable for water, wastewater, and then the staff recommendation, for that 1-inch meter, you can see the numbers. If we go all the way up to a 6-inch meters, you can see we go from $2,138 on the water side up to potentially $42,000 for adding a new 6-inch meter. And then on the wastewater side, going from $2,700 up to $54,000. On the roadway side, These are just a couple representative land uses. We've got residential, industrial, office, and retail. So you can see, again, we've got that $769 for a single-family home. If you were to add a per 1,000 square foot of an industrial development, $532. For a 1,000 square foot of office land use, $1,178. And then retail, per 1,000 square foot, $710. And then the recommended fee structure is going to be shown on the right. So I've already kind of talked a little bit through about how the fees are kind of calculated, but just to kind of provide that visual. So on the roadway side, you have to identify what type of development it is, how many units it's going to have. A lot of those roadway calculations on the non-residential side are going to be based on square footage of the development. And so you're going to calculate what a vehicle development mile is, and then you're going to multiply by that, whatever the set rate of the cost per vehicle mile is. And that's how we're going to calculate the potential capital recovery fee. Water, wastewater, a little bit more straightforward, in that we just look at the meter size and then calculate it out based on how the schedule is derived. So I want to show a couple of representative land uses as well, just to give you a little bit better of a visual of what that would look like. Next slide, please. So looking at a single-family home, you can see that the max allowable fees of $5,610, and then the staff recommended fee of $1,500. So you just see the chart that shows, kind of shows that same information, how much lower the staff recommended fees are than the actual maximum allowable number. So just trying to provide the same information in a more of a visual standpoint. On the next slide, we look at a sample of a 25,000 square foot industrial development. Maximum allowable fee here would be approximately $25,422. This is assuming a 2-inch meter for water and sewer. And then if we use the staff recommended fee structure, $8,175. Next, we have a 10,000 square foot office building. Maximum allowable here is $23,882. Staff recommendation, $7,577. Again, assuming the 2-inch meter for the office building. Next slide is a 20,000 square foot commercial retail. Maximum allowable, $26,310. Staff recommendation, $8,520. Next, we have a 3,500 square foot high turnover restaurant. The maximum allowable would be $17,302. And then staff recommended fee, $5,020. And then our last sample calculation is gas station with 8 fueling positions. Ignore the labels on the left. The 26 and the 8,500, those are typos. I apologize. The bar chart is correct. The maximum allowable would be $10,041 for a gas station, and then staff recommendation is $3,500. So again, trying to show a little bit visually of what it would look like for different types of customers if a fee structure were to be adopted. Lastly, from a benchmarking standpoint, you can see some more local communities. You got other communities across the state of Texas. What are they charging as far as like for a single family home here? You can see the staff recommendation for Canyon, $1,500. That's combined water, sewer, and roadway. You can see how that's very comparable to City of Lubbock, who only charges roadway fees right now. They have a $1,501 charge for their roadway fees. If you go down to the bottom of the chart, you can see some of these other communities. For a single-family home, they're charging upwards of $12,000 to make these connections to help fund future projected infrastructure, water, sewer, and roadway. Kind of smack in the middle there, we have those maximum allowable numbers that I've covered as well. So that's that 5,610. So again, wanting to show where Canyon could stack up to against some other utilities. From a schedule standpoint, you can see here, we've done our first public hearing. We've done all of our committee meetings. We've conducted public advertisement for this public hearing. The committee has provided their written recommendations. And again, we're here to have this public hearing today. So I guess before we do that, I will open up to any questions from the commission.
So on your fee benchmark comparison, see the cities you compared us to, but I don't see anybody that's not in like an expanding DFW or Austin area or anybody that's near our size. Was that not available?
Well, so we really targeted communities that had all three components. I'm in Fort Worth, and there's a lot of communities around that charge water or wastewater but don't do roads. There's other communities that are, we tried to find as many local ones. There's just not as many in kind of Panhandle, Texas. You see the closest neighbors we have are Lubbock, Midland, and Odessa. From a size standpoint, I would say Cleburne, Lockhart, Portland are probably in a more of a similar profile, albeit not in the same geographical area where we are. So it was kind of hard to check all those boxes, so to speak. I don't know, Lucas, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that we're that city in our region. We're the only one that's growing the way that we are. And so it's hard for us to find any kind of similar example in West Texas that's our size. So that's why you see Lubbock, Odessa, Midland there. Those are our West Texas cities that have a program like this. But other than that, we're the only other one that's growing at a rate that we felt like it was necessary to start looking at this program. Thank you.
If there's not any other questions, go to the next slide, please. So really the decision before the commission is to look at potentially adopting a schedule, a fee schedule. You have the ability to collect from $0 all the way up to the maximum dollars. So we have the, considering a potential collection rate for Canyon. So you could do the full 100% of the maximum. You could go with staff recommendation. We talked about this, the advisory committee recommendation. They did make the recommend.
I was just gonna speak a little more on that if I could.
Well, so, okay, I'll let you do that in just a second. But, so y'all have the ability to set it from $0 to the maximum or anywhere in between. That is, the results of the report and the study is to tell you what that 100% number is. But the policy is what the commission decides on where the fees actually get set. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was gonna ask Gary, if you don't mind, at this point, I think it's the appropriate time to hold the public hearing before we have discussion.
Yes.
In case there's any public comment that we want to answer questions for.
We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing then, and we have Jeff Hamilton, who signed in to speak. Jeff?
Sure. Here's my notes.
I
But I will not talk that long. I did talk that long, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak again on this deal. Yes, we did have the CIAC committee met twice, because this is super complicated. It's, you guys just saw the packet, and then, if I asked any of you to reiterate, okay, so how do we calculate this? It's very complicated. The truth is, I like your question, Cody, because, and Robin, yours as well. Amarillo's not doing this. There's not another city in this area doing this. We are the city that's growing, but we are not growing at a rate that requires us to do this. And as a matter of fact, in my personal opinion, with what the county has adopted with their new development standards, we are sitting in the driver's seat to grow if we just let it grow. If we allow development to do what it does and participate with the development, Canyon will grow. And we all want the better things. We want the restaurants, we want the businesses that generate sales tax revenue. Then we don't have to do stuff like this. But in order to get that, we've got to have the houses in the developments. We have to have rooftops, okay? So we kind of have a conundrum. But the thing is, if we impose impact fees on new development, and let me clarify what new development is. It is not the developer that will pay this. It is the end homeowner that will pay this fee. However, it needs to be said, that needs to be said, that the end homeowner and the end taxpayer is getting taxed, whether it's a tax or a fee. And that's what we need to get to, down to the nuts of it. This is what it is. I do think that, and I want to say this too, I was the chosen developer to be on this committee, to understand how this works. I am also part of a development right now that actually did impose an impact fee in my development. But that all became through negotiations and looking at the numbers and making sure that this thing works, okay? Yeah, I don't really like that we have to do that, but I think that it came down to something that worked for everybody. The very next agenda item tonight is the same thing, but that was decided between the city and staff and the developer. That can happen from now on. Every development can go through the same process and decide what their impact fees need to be. My biggest fear with this whole system is that, yes, and I voted against it, but the total committee voted to bring this forward to you guys as a $0 amount. That's fine. The problem is the next commission, 2 years from now, or 6 years from now, or 10 years from now, all they have to do is change it. And then we're now paying exorbitant impact fees. Maybe, maybe not. I do trust Canyon, Texas, and I trust our government to make sure we don't hurt our citizens. But the thing about it is, recognize that single-family unit is a multiplier. So every time you have a bigger tap fee, it multiplies. And that's how they come up with the bigger numbers. And so it's scary to me to think that we can put something in place that down the line, it can get out of hand. That's the reason I did not like this and I voted against it. Most of the places that, and it's very, 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 very hard. I did lots and lots and lots of research to figure out who has impact fees. Are they good? Are they bad? Is there anything against it? It's very hard to find anything negative written about impact fees because you don't find something written about what you don't have. So if we impose impact fees in the city of Canyon and all of a sudden we don't get businesses looking at Canyon, we may or may not even know it. And that's what I'm most afraid of, because Amarillo doesn't have them. And right now, conveniently, you can put your business in Amarillo and you're still going to get the Canyon residents going and spending their money there rather than coming to Canyon. So I just wanted you to know how I felt about the deal. The recommendation you'll hear about was at $0. You guys make the best judgment you can, and I really appreciate your time. Any questions?
We appreciate, as much as Jeff talks way too much, we appreciate his service on the committee and as well as the rest of the SEAC and P&Z members. Thank you. They took time out of their day to work with us on that. Thank you very much for doing that, Jeff.
Any others? Was Jeff the only person signed in? Sorry.
You know what? Yes.
Technically close that.
Yes, only person signed in for a public hearing, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, and I second what Joe said, Jeff. This is the second of some hard things that I think we've worked through together, through subdivision, through subdivision regulations and your developments and now this process. And I do appreciate you being present and also paying attention, doing your own research and bringing your perspective. I think we end up having better things for everybody because of it. I think when we both leave the room unhappy, I think that we know we're in a good place. Yes, so that's a definition of compromise. No, and to Jeff's point, he says this is not something we're ready for, it's not something we need, and that is a valid opinion that comes from his perspective. The main point that I want to make here is just that this is quite simply a policy decision. This whole process said, here's the growth that we're gonna see in 10 years. Here are the infrastructure projects that you would have to complete in order to accommodate that growth. So if Canyon wants to stay in a growth phase, we wanna continue to accommodate growth. We want to construct that infrastructure that will accommodate said growth. The question just comes down to how do we pay for it? Traditionally, we've paid for it in two different ways. That would be increasing existing water sewer rates on existing taxpayers in order to pay for projects and or taking out debt. A lot of times those go hand in hand. The city takes out debt and then raises rates in order to cover the payments on that debt. That's traditionally how the city of Canyon has funded these projects. A lot of these bigger projects, our budget's not large enough to cover any of those with our specific utility fund in any specific year. Chris's budget has to cover his maintenance and employees and all those things. So this is just adding a third option on the table. Again, it comes down to your decision of what you think is the most appropriate way to pay for these projects if we continue to grow, because they will have to come. And so that's really what it comes down to, calculating out the staff recommendation, going back up to, if you don't mind, Gretchen, that fee benchmark comparison. That's the easiest slide to get to, just a couple up, that shows what we recommended. $1,500 per single family land use equivalent. That calculates out to roughly 13% of the project costs. If we charged that for 10 years and got exactly the amount of growth that we said was gonna come, and everybody paid those fees, that would cover 13% of what it would take to build all of those projects that were in those three lists. So that's Hunsley Road, that's the water and the sewer projects, that list of 8 and 7 projects. That's where we came from as a staff. That's when we met. We looked at these comparable cities. Yes, hard to find someone like us out here in West Texas. And so we saw Lubbock. We thought we could beat them by $1, and so we did with our recommendation anyways. So that's really where it comes from. We want to be very clear as staff that we had very good, robust conversation in our SEAC meeting. Thank you to the commissioners who were able to attend that meeting. And we're in no way trying to usurp or work against that committee and their recommendation. That was a really good conversation where Jeff brought up the negotiations we were able to have with him and his developments, with Robbie Christie and NMB Homes, and suggested that as a group, the suggestion was we can adopt the program and set the fees at 0 at this point. And then in the future, if we see the need to cover some of those projects, then we can increase the fees at that time. That also is just a policy decision. And so it really comes down to the avenue and the direction that the commission wants to go in order to fund some of these projects. Because some of them, regardless of if we didn't get one new subdivision or development in this next year, 10-year period, some of these projects have to be constructed anyways, because they're gonna serve the existing 2,000 lots that are proposed right now in those subdivisions. And so those are just the things that I wanted to lay out clearly and make sure that that's really what this is. It's a policy decision of how do we think it's appropriate to pay for these projects to support the growth that it sounds like we all want to see come to Canyon. I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all have.
So for the majority of the development that's already on the books that we've already accepted, those agreements have already taken place.
That's right.
And ballpark, how far out year-wise do you feel like that is?
That those will continue to be built. So between the current development agreements we have would be for Crestview, Myra, and Spring Canyon, and Phantom Creek. Not technically a development agreement there, but there's a process agreement there. we're expecting 15 to 20 years is what it would take for all of those to be fully built out. The fees that we have agreed to in Myra, Spring Canyon, and Phantom will cover a portion of the utility extension projects just to those, but does not cover some of the other projects to increase their water supply or capacity with like the elevated storage tank,
So
Hunsley Road, things like that.
if we take the staff recommendation, there could be additional fees on his.
No. So that would only apply to new development outside of those.
Right, so
That's grandfather in.
That's correct,
And that was negotiated.
yes,
so it
Because
wouldn't,
they
it wouldn't affect any of the developments you've just talked about.
that's correct.
Is there any development on the horizon that you can think of that this would impact?
The only one it could potentially impact would be our discussions at Kim Road.
Wouldn't it impact Crestview if they went ahead?
There's an existing development agreement with Crestview.
So
Maybe we'll change our mind.
So we're making a decision based on today's numbers for something that potentially 10 maybe 10 years?
Yes, we're making a decision based on all of the land use assumptions we made. So if growth did
It wouldn't
occur,
impact anything until.
this is how we expect it to occur, and these are the areas. So there's some land owned behind Crestview to the west, Rock Rose.
For sure.
Section 4, further west of that, southeast, you saw that one water line project that we showed there. If somebody came next week and said, hey, I bought it, I want to develop here.
There has been some discussions
But
on
there
that.
wouldn't be, but there would still require debt and water sewer fees to increase. If we accepted your recommendation.
If you accept our recommendation, you still gotta find the other, 87%.
I mean, kind of a fairy tale today for the next
Absolutely.
10 years at least, I would think, right?
That's what the rest of those communities are doing too.
I'll add one other thing too, is, so yeah, if there's a development that already has an agreement in place, they would not be assessed a fee like this. This would cover maybe everything else. And you're assessed the fee when you file your final plat, and the fee is collected when a building permit's pulled.
Talk about 5 elections from now.
So the only way this would come in, it depends. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last 3 years that we didn't expect to move as quickly as it did. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from, right? These other cities, things just happen that you don't know, that you don't see, that you don't. I mean, Kim Road is a good example of that. Even Phantom Creek, it wasn't on, I know it was on y'all's mind, but it wasn't on our mind as a city. That came as a surprise to us. So it's preparing for the next, whatever that might be.
Is the fear that a Phantom Creek doesn't show up if they already have impact fees in place?
Sorry.
Is it that the impact fees?
That's Jeff's point. Yeah, that's Jeff's point, is that if we have that fee in place, then that growth it's not gonna come knocking.
So I think there's something confusing. I'm gonna switch topics. I know you were fixing to say something. I don't wanna.
No, you're good.
Take you off track. So there was discussion that I don't really quite understand. We have 3 options. We can set the staff recommendation. We could set any number.
Yes.
But let's say we have 3. The staff recommendation, the SEAC recommendation, or take no action at all. If we take no action at all, there was some discussion about that this would cost us money to do this all over again. Help me understand the legality behind that, why we couldn't come back next year and decide to take the study that's been presented and assess fees then.
So at this point, all of the statutory requirements for public hearings, everything like that, action has to be taken within a certain window of this public hearing. All of those things play into that. We paid Friesen Nichols to run this study for us. They're crunching the numbers. They're doing all the land use assumptions. A year from now, if we wanted to pick it back up, we don't have the time or bandwidth to take all that information and recalculate everything. So there'd be some cost if
So
we
there's
wanted
a
to start that
statutory
over.
recommend.
And then you start that whole process over with public hearings, required SEAC meetings.
I understand the
Yeah.
public hearings and SEAC,
Right.
but there's a statutory requirement that there be a study done?
Yes.
You have to re-update your land use assumptions, your eligible CIP, essentially, and then run through the calculations again.
But your calculations are probably up to date enough. It would be just plug and play for someone to come in behind you and do it.
They would say all your cost estimates are wrong now because everything just got more expensive next year, right? Like that's in theory.
Lucas, you also said previously that the committee could just set 0 if needed, just to hold that as a placer and then to
Yes.
change. That way we wouldn't have to go back through the process.
Right, and that's the SEAC recommendation that came down, I believe I put it in the agenda memo, there was a 5-2 vote, that's what Commissioner Spahn recommended, that we adopt the program, but set those fees at 0, and so that we're in that holding pattern where we have the program, but we can't increase the fees. I will say there's a bill that I'm tracking that says if you set those fees, it's whatever they're set at come September 1st, they're locked in for 3 or 5 years, depending on which bill passes. So there are 2 bills that are directly rooted in impact fees. I'm sure y'all are paying attention to those, so.
And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question. This may be a Chuck question. This doesn't require a supermajority to override that. It's not like the P and Z.
No, it does not.
It's just a standing committee that doesn't require it.
Right.
I'm ready to talk when it's time. Okay, it's my time now. I'm gonna have to get up though.
You need me to move?
No, yeah, I like the way Hector did it. Got out, walked around. That was really good.
Hector's good at that.
I'm gonna try that, because I'm nervous anyway. Especially since Heather's here, she's too dang smart. All right, I'm gonna start off kind of saying that Joe and Lucas, y'all did a good job, and I don't blame you for what you're doing. I think you're doing what the city should say, but us commissioners, we kind of represent taxpayers. And Lucas is so dang smart, if he was on my side, which I mean business, he'd be amazing. I mean, he'd do a really good job. The first thing I want to do is, I want to talk to Danny and Cody and Robin. That's the only 3 I want to talk to, because I can't change your mind. And that's okay. His mind's made up, and that's okay. And Lucas said it's policy, and he's exactly right. This is a policy decision that's going to impact for 30, 40 years. And I'll start off by going back that I'm definitely against it, just like Jeff. He made some really, really good points. I think it's the worst thing we could ever do. So I made me some notes I remember. I'm not blaming you. I'm going to go back to Canyon North, which was years and years ago, 50 years ago now probably. The commission was there, and they were divided. Hopefully we're divided today, but they were divided, and they made the decision to leave it out of the city of Canyon. Worst policy decision they ever made. Look at it now. It should be in the city paying taxes. They pay 0 taxes. They bring their trash into town. They pay no trash fee. It's the worst decision that commission ever made. And that's where we are now. We're at another policy decision. And we were at that a year or 2 ago when Jeff and Davey came. We were a split commission. 2 wanted it and 2 said the heck with them. And that's why they're here now. And he made the point that they came in all because of one lady, Robin. She's too humble to admit it, but she made the decision to go with the 2 that won them in the city. And it flipped everything. Joe went out and did an amazing job of negotiating with them guys, which is the way it ought to be. He negotiated a great deal for everybody, and everybody's happy. They like him, they like him. And you start mandating to these builders and developers, they're not gonna come here. They're gonna build in the county where it's cheaper. No question about it. And this policy will be in place. They can change, and you saw the numbers of these cities. They just go up every year, and that's what's gonna happen to Canyon if you do it. No problem. All right, I got through the history, all right. And the meeting the other day that he's talked about, I want to bring up a few things that were said there, because there were some good things said there. I'll start with Gary. Gary said all citizens will have to pay for the new development. And to a point, that's right, but as the city grows, I think it's a good thing for the businesses and everybody to grow. And I'll also argue that he didn't mention that Joe negotiated fees for this new houses coming in, and these new houses are going to be paying taxes for eternity, and they're going to be paying sales taxes when they come in and shop in the town. So I kind of argue that's negated a little bit, but he made a good point. And Lucas made a good point about the cap on tax increases because of valuations. And he's exactly right. The legislators set that up purposely that way, so as they come on, the evaluations are set, the whole tax rate's got to come down. And I think that's one of our responsibilities. That's the way it was set, the way legislators set it up to be like that. So, and I can see their side of it, but I can sure see my side of it too. And then I said at the meeting that every $1,000 increase results in thousands of people unable to qualify for a loan. That's just statistically true. And so that's what'll happen, people won't be able to qualify for a loan. And Jeff was absolutely correct. It's all gonna be passed through the homeowner, the new taxpayer, gonna pay for it. And Cody said that nonprofits can't recoup the fee, and small businesses will have a hard time recouping the fee. Both that's true, and I'm here to fight for small businesses. That's exactly true, fee. They'll have a hard time getting over it. And Lucas said, big businesses don't care, and they expect to pay a fee, and that's probably true. But I want to protect small business. That's what I'm here for. I wish the Chamber of Commerce ought to be here too, but they're not. All right, let's see. So all that was said, and then Colby, a builder, said if you impact these $1,500 fee, he's going to be out. He's not going to build anymore in Canyon. And that's what you're going to end up having. Builders will just say no. They'll just go in the county or go somewhere else. Then Robin said that the tax will be used as a bargaining tool for the EDC. And I think that's probably right too. But I'm of the opinion, I don't want an extra tax added to be used as a tool to help a business come here when they ought to be able to use the EDC to help buy some equipment or something for them. But that's a good point. She made the point. And Jeff said some cities have done away with impact fees, but he mentioned that. And cheaper to build in the county was stated. And that's the truth. So to sum it up for me, the impact fees, they'll hurt small businesses, nonprofits, small builders, and small developers. And that's who I'm fighting for, and I hope two of you three guys are fighting for the same thing. So the way we do it now, sum it up, we were negotiating with developers. Well, Joe's doing a great job doing that, and hell, they like each other. He put a impact fee they have no discussion on. They're going to all be mad. Everybody's going to be mad. The way you're doing it now is fantastic. And new developments come in, you can negotiate your fee, what you need. We're not a huge big city. We don't need all this stuff here, this mandating. We just don't need it. So I hope y'all help me and Jeff to help stop this thing.
So through negotiations, kind of like the last negotiation that occurred, you can negotiate through that contract what impact or what fees would be included, right? So you would go case by case instead of just across the board if we did it through negotiation.
Yes.
The way we're currently doing it.
And there's another benefit, it doesn't tie us back to those specific projects. And so the funds that do come in, while they're intended to help recoup costs, more than likely what the budget will be, those will go to development projects. So probably the funds that Robbie in Myra Park and Spring Canyon and Phantom will probably go to sewer expansion projects, water expansion projects. It will probably go to those projects to help pay for those down the road. Those negotiations have been good. I think our relationship with our most recent developer are better than it ever has been. I think Lucas is a large share on a lot of the daily activities, working with our public works utility crew, as well as the engineer that they're using. I think that relationship has gotten a lot better. I do think it's as best as it's ever been. And I think it's because we went into it in a very understanding way that, hey, we're expecting something. Let's try to get to that point. You know, we made our points of, hey, we're gonna have to make this scale of an investment from public infrastructure. You know, this is gonna be this, you know, we're gonna have to raise fees. And so we had a back and forth, and all in all, it went extremely well. Never once did we yell at each other actually during this. Davey and I have yelled at each other a few times through some of this, which is just what it is. But we didn't.
Everybody yells with Davey.
He's kind of loud. But all this was very mutual. They brought up some great points. You know, I'll say, you know, none of this is, you know, really talked about publicly, but, you know, one of the things when we were talking to Jeff and Davey about building the lift station, so that's kind of what's turning the corner on some of this. Hey, we're gonna have to do this, we have to work through this, and so Davey came with some good ideas. It's probably Jeff's idea that Davey took credit for. He came with some ideas on, you know, hey, can we do the line this way or do it that way? One of the things we knew we were gonna have to have some type of permanent road cost that we're gonna do, and they asked, hey, why don't you just, instead of having to put a road over there where we're farming right now, what if we just put that portion that you were gonna pay towards the bridge? And so those are some of the fruitful negotiations we went back and forth, because that road was gonna eventually go away one day anyways. So we were gonna spend 6 figures on a road to get to that lift station to check it every day. And it's like, hey, just put that 100,000 towards the bridge and we'll go forward and move forward with it. So those are some of the just internal dialogues we got to, and overall, it was very successful.
But had impact fees been in place prior to that, would those negotiations been able to take place?
You know, that's probably a unique one, because it's been a relationship. I can't answer that to the nth degree if that would be that way or not. But those relationships are what made that possible, in my professional opinion. Mutual respect. We've all learned, we've all improved, them included, us included. We've all learned and improved and gotten better since we started at Canyon East. And so through that evolution of relationships and knowledge has allowed us to flourish. Lucas, would you like to speak on that as all?
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna answer your question, Cody, too, that that's what I was asking Andrew, that cities that have these adopted fees, they can still negotiate credits with developers who are already contributing. So even though you set those fees, it's still possible. I did have a question for you, Jeff. The conflict I see with our current process of negotiating flat fees per lot is that they don't take into account the burden on the system at all for what's gonna actually go on that lot. And so there's a little bit of inequity that I know I'm gonna get the call, is basically what I'm saying. In 2 years, when we really get going in Myra, or we get going in Spring Canyon, hey, how come my fee was $800 for my townhome lot, but I know that around the corner they're building a new restaurant and their fee was $800 too. And so that's going to be a question to you, is if now that we've learned a lot more about how this works through this formal process, do you think that's something that y'all would have been up to discussing in the informal process of like setting any kind of fee in the development agreement based on land use or burden on the system?
My answer to that would be, I've had commercial lots for sale all up and down 2590 from day one, phase one. And I have one business there,
The ones without sewer?
yes.
Do you think that is the biggest burden, or do you think that
It's a challenge because of the sewer, but they're on city water, so that's the only challenge they have.
Sure.
And I'm gonna be honest, the size of septic system that they have to put in, they won't even have to pump that thing for 20 years.
But there, I can speak on that for a second. That is the concern.
It is.
So that the sewer and not having the city services, that's is why I went and said, hey, we need to put that out there, but that is the reason. So when we're looking for development, that is what's holding those lots back. It's not where they're at or anything else, it's the scared of the septic system.
Down the road, we have several commercial lots in Madison Park that are just sitting there on top of it.
Yeah, but they're just not flying off the shelf as fast as everybody thinks. We recently sold some of those lots. Unfortunately, they're I probably shouldn't say this, but they're to a guy who doesn't own a business. He's hoping that a business will come and buy from him. You know, it just kind of changed hands, but it's not gonna they're not gonna build right now.
Right.
So, yeah, it would have been a negotiating factor, but the thing is, if they were already in place, you know, it's one of those deals, it affects the end user more than anything, and so it's tough. The other thing I'd like to say, though, on behalf of me and Paul and any developer, Robbie Christie as well, just know that in my capacity with the CIAC committee, all I had to do was go and change our recommendation to the highest allowable. And then I know that businesses aren't coming and houses aren't coming. And the only place they're gonna end up going would be my own subdivision, because I would have the lowest fees and the lowest impact on their house. And so there's a with what we have in place right now, all I had to do is make a greedy decision to say, no, I do the maximum allowable. That's the best thing for me. And I'm not looking at it like that. I want to make the best decision for the city, because in the studies that I researched, that's not what happened in California. And now all of a sudden it costs, in certain places, it's $60,000 to build a home before you even break dirt. And that's what I want to avoid 50 years from now, when I'm dead and gone.
So again, it's good discussion. I think that there's obviously different sides to this and lots of factors. As Paul said, well, it's a policy decision, something that you have to decide. If you want to keep growing, these projects are going to come. We're going to come ask how we want to pay for those, and we'll have recommendations at that time. And Joe and Joel will have some good arguments on how best to do that. And this is just a decision for y'all to make on what we want to see going forward and how we want to be able to fund those projects.
It's kind of a side note, but Paul, I appreciate your discussion, but there is one thing that you said that I don't think was really correct. You said the commission was split on Phantom Creek and bringing that in, and I really believe the commission is trying to figure out how to do that, and I saw a united commission and trying to figure out how to do that, so.
We were two different commissions. We were two different meetings. Do you remember Robin got up to leave? And I said, Robin, you gotta tell us which way to go. And she did. I'm telling you, it was 2 and 2.
There was no split vote. There were no
We didn't vote.
commissioners
No,
opposed
no.
to the,
You're correct. We didn't take a vote, but we had two different opinions on both sides. And she hadn't stepped in and said, let's go for it. We got to have them in the city. It wouldn't have happened. Joe went out and did a tremendous job.
I think we were all just talking about, there's gotta be we want them to participate in some way, Paul, what I recall. And the question was, do we want more development? I mean, we were asking that question as well.
and I think everybody was on board in figuring out a way to get it done, so.
This is a different meeting. I probably didn't pay attention very good, to be my guess. I apologize.
As Lucas and they said, this is a policy decision. Everybody is 100% right.
It's a policy decision.
It is.
Long-term policy decision.
The thing is, you can't go over the maximum allowable, obviously. Staff recommended the 1,500 to SEAC. That was our recommendation. That's what stands our recommendation. And then SEAC recommended doing the 0 based on some just comments that they made. And we support the SEAC's.
You're blaming me?
No, on the comment you made about that.
Yes.
Yeah, talking about the 0 at least, and then we wouldn't have to go and redo and reassess all that.
If we went with 0, then it still takes a commission to vote to make that decision.
It comes
change,
back to this body.
right?
Another
Public hearing.
Another public.
But it
Yes.
we have to have another public hearing to change that?
Yes.
But we don't have to go through the whole process?
And how long does that last?
Oh, if you adopt it today, that basically is valid for 5 years. You would have to, and in 5 years' time, you would decide to redo the study, figure out new numbers and potentially reset fees. Or in 5 years, you would just say, we're done with this program and not do anything.
So in 5 years, we're hiring you to come back anyway.
Anybody. You would be required to re-update your study in 5
So
years' time.
changing
if you-
fees requires the process of re-studying everything.
If we went backwards, I don't know, if we
Not
went back.
necessarily changing the fees, but if you get to 5 years and you
5-year
haven't
mark.
done anything,
Okay,
it's
the
the time
5-year
period.
mark is the year.
Yes, that's
If
correct.
you've done,
It's a time
if you
period.
did do something in 5 years, let's say we did something in 4 years, in year 5, do we have to restudy it?
I believe so.
You'd have to
We
update
have
the
to-
numbers. Hypothetically, if
So if we
If
put
they
it in
change the
place, we
fees
have to
in year
restudy it
four,
every
they
5
would start
years.
from
no matter
that's,
what.
everybody has to do that. Yes,
Even if
that's
we don't
correct.
put it in
Yep.
place?
Yes, if you don't put it in place.
It's a 10-year outlook, they make you check in the middle, pretty
And
much.
what
We go
Lucas
back to
men-
SEAC, hey, here's the update, here's what's happening.
But
In the
Lucas-
interim, you still have to go to SEAC, if there's any fee adopted, to say, hey, here's how much we've collected, here's where it's gone, here's the projects we are or aren't doing. If there's no fee, then we have a very short SEAC meeting.
If we put if we went with 0, does that limit our ability to negotiate in contracts for those fees?
In no way.
It wouldn't change.
So we would negotiate
You can
no matter
negotiate
what?
anything in a development agreement.
And most, I would say a lot of cities do.
Okay.
Well, we hadn't talked Lubbock a lot, but Lubbock had a subdivision outside of town that had a terrible road that they couldn't get to and they couldn't do it. And that's what led them to do the roadway. They actually have all three. They have the roadway and then water and sewer are both 0. That's what Lubbock has said. At that point, it served their purpose to help improve that road. They had to basically expand capacity of that road to get to, I think it was a fairly large subdivision.
And they're currently restudying theirs because that number date was 2020. So they're in the current process of updating theirs. They're gonna keep water wastewater at zero, but they're just re-looking at their roadway numbers.
And they're the prime example. They have issued debt upon debt. They are $1 billion in debt. A lot of that is these expansion projects. Per capita, they are the most debted city, I think, in the United States of America.
Did they get an award for that?
They what?
Did they get a plaque?
So clarification on, just for me, on what Robin's asked. So if we set it at zero, somebody comes in and we figure out what we've got to put in, wastewater structure, don't think the city can afford all that, we need some help. And similar to, appreciate that negotiation process with the Hamiltons and got to. So if we come up and say, well, to make this work, we really need $1,000, can we still do that if we set it at zero?
We could do that outside this process.
Yes.
Yep.
But by setting it at zero, we have to do every 5 years. We have to do the
Yes.
study. If you don't set it, if you just don't put it in place and you're not required to continue.
And what Lucas was saying, that there are 2 bills, I think, in the legislature that you can't change your fee for like 3 or 5
One is 3, one is 5.
Yeah, one is 3 years. So like if you set it today at zero, you couldn't change it for 3 years.
My assumption on those bills is that if they're passed, you're gonna see every city who's nervous about it reset their fees before September
They're
1st.
gonna try to grab the maximum they can.
Because then they'll be stuck.
There are some cities that do.
Tight impact, really, it's gonna be harder for a city. And to your point about negotiating zero, yeah, you can negotiate the developer, but if he says no, then all they gotta do is come in here and say, developer said no, so we need to set it. 3 votes, you gotta set, once it's in place.
You had to do a hearing. You do have to.
After the hearing, but ain't nobody can show up at the hearing.
Yeah.
Even if they did, y'all wouldn't be against it. Even if you had 50 people show up at hearing against it, you're not gonna be against it because you need the money.
Correct.
So all you need is 3 votes once it's in place. It don't matter what the developer tells you. Taking him out of the program, but that's the part I don't like, because he's out of the negotiations, basically.
All great discussions. We are ready to put this project to rest. We leave it at the CIAC's recommendation. We can live with that.
So the city's recommendation is to go with the CIAC, which is zero.
Yes, we support what came out of that body. Yes, obviously our staff recommendation to them was 1,500. We are supportive of their action.
I can see the look on Lucas's face saying, wait, what?
We talked about this.
Tell me how to pay for it. That's all we gotta do.
Something we look at every time.
Yeah,
The answer is, no is also an answer.
absolutely, without a doubt. Yep, another policy decision.
And we've said no before.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Don't get me too excited, Cody.
We put our neck on the line for
Jeff had a
10
great
years here.
example too. Amarillo saying, you go build everything in a mud, and then if it's right, we'll take it. That's another option too.
And I've authorized Lucas to begin a
Which is
policy.
equivalent to a 100% impact fee.
I've authorized Lucas to begin a mud policy, so out of light of what Amarillo's doing. I've asked him to start looking at a municipal utility district policy as well.
I don't think anybody wants that. That's what you have right out here.
That's why Houston is what it is. However, Amarillo does also have 2 catastrophic failures in their wastewater plants that they're gonna have a challenge to figure out that on top of it, and those are at $250 million apiece, if not more, on top of it.
So to be clear, do you support the CIAC's decision?
I do not.
There were 2 votes against it,
He was one.
him and I think it was Forbes.
Forbes.
Ms. Forbes, it was a 5-2 vote. I think Jeff was on what Paul said, no program. think we got two options, Mr. Mayor, either no program vote or zeros to get this off I Center. Andrew, do we have to take some sort of action today? Do you know?
We had a resolution at previous, I can't remember, it was the last meeting, I think it was the,
We had a resolution to hold a public hearing.
yes.
Public advertise. Joe, I have to ask, what more discussion do you think would happen at a different meeting?
I don't
Not to
think-
be, I'm not trying to be.
I don't think it's discussion,
confrontational.
sometimes it's just digestion
Sure,
of the information, just like we did with the fees tonight, there was a lot to cover,
sure.
you know.
I believe there was a 60-day window from that resolution. If that expires, then we just have to do another resolution, another public hearing.
So we'd still have to have a public hearing, just like we did tonight, if we choose not to do anything.
If we're beyond the 60 days,
I believe so.
we can double check.
Yeah.
I think they've got enough, sometimes they just need to digest it.
Is that telling me to?
No.
Okay, sorry.
You're fine with this, chill. So, that's all we got, Mr. Mayor.
Unless somebody wants to make a motion, move on to the next item.
All right, so be
Very good. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, absolutely, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Justin.
Item number 14, consider and take appropriate action on an addendum to the Meyer Park agreement for the extension of water, wastewater, offsite mains, and reimbursement of costs for the oversizing of on-site water, wastewater, main improvements. Lucas?
Thank you. I forgot, I can't leave if I wanted to. So this is our last of our 3 fun fee discussions tonight. This one hopefully will be the easiest. Back in May of 2022, City of Canyon did enter into an agreement with NB Properties, the developer for Meyer Park, for the extension of wastewater and water off-site mains. That agreement was originally structured based on 50% cost share of the construction expenses from our OPCC, plus a 3% interest rate that the city would carry, calculated through an amortization schedule, tied to the number of homes constructed per year. That ended up changing in many different ways. The OPCC was low. We came in, I think, 60% over our projected budget. Long story short, we're getting ready to start out there. We have received our first permits for homes in this subdivision. Talking with City Manager Joe Price and Bo, who I believe was able to take his daughter to a volleyball game, thankfully. We didn't like the setup of the structure where we were gonna have to calculate that 3% amortized fee, which would basically be any new day you get a permit, the fee changed because that 3% just grew by 28 cents or whatever it was. And so we sat down with Tommy and Robbie and said, hey, how about instead of this, we just set a flat fee of $1,000 per residential lot for those first 500 lots per the previous agreement. Still had that 500 number, but instead of that fluctuating fee, we just set it right at $1,000. What that ended up doing was kind of landing right in between our cost estimate. If they were to build everything in 5 years, they would have only paid $480,000. If it took them longer, they might have paid $520,000 if it took them 10 years. We said, hey, why don't we just meet in the middle at that $500,000 mark, set the fee to $1,000. That'll be a lot easier for my staff administratively when they're issuing those permits, to not have to reach out to Bo to calculate a new fee based on the date every time. And they like that, they agreed to that. And so you'll see the addendum attached there that just kind of states that agreement to stick with just a $1,000 flat fee instead of that amortized fee, including interest.
Staff recommendation.
Approval.
Staff recommendation would be to approve this change.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, I believe that takes us to item number 15. Consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 21-2025, adopting an annexation calendar and approving a petition for annexation and associated agreements.
All right, so thank you, Cameron, for being here. We've been working with Cameron and Dr. Felucci at CISD. We found a fun kind of portion of the city of Canyon that we did not realize was not the city of Canyon over at the junior high. CISD has a piece of property for sale at the very south end. It was the old bus barn, I believe.
Maintenance facility.
Maintenance facility, okay. On 8th Street. And in that process, we realized that maintenance facility has city water, city sewer, not actually in the city limits. And so I think basically just over the years, we never realized that property was not annexed into the city limits, but they were receiving services. Obviously, we're great partners with CISD. Probably just wasn't something that we felt like needed to be addressed at the time. Now that property is being sold, we've requested that they do annex that property and the remaining portion of the middle school facilities into the city limits before they sell, just to clean everything up. So that's what this process is. You'll see a survey there, a petition for annexation that just shows that property and bringing that into the city limits.
I move we approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
You didn't want to address, you didn't want to say anything?
I said thank you to Luke.
Oh, you didn't want to say anything to us? No?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, well,
Did you want to address?
This isn't like ours. Well, this isn't like our meetings where I didn't think I could say anything.
Thank you. See you, Cameron.
And enjoy. Okay. See you in a bit.
All right, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 18-2025, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, granting exclusive management rights to the Canyon Chamber of Commerce over at the downtown square, Paul Lindsay Park, and public areas in and around these areas during the annual 4th of July celebration held July 4th, 2025.
Thanks for having me. This is gonna be a lot shorter than everything else in this week.
Well, then you've let us down.
Prove it. So 4th of July is coming up. I know we're still in May, but 4th of July takes a lot of preparation. We do this every year. We ask for a resolution that gives the management of the downtown square and Paul Lindsay Park to the commission so that we can have the parade, have the fair on the square, and the fireworks show be in Paul Lindsay Park. We just need this resolution that gives them the authority to do that. And that's what we're asking for.
Second.
I did pass on to Joe. I had a comment from a Canyon merchant on the West Side Square, just requested that the day before the 4th, that outside street be open as long as possible, all too. Have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 17, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 19-2025, the resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, describing limitations on parking or standing motor vehicles or trailers during the parade to be held July 4th, 2025. Chief?
Thank you again. So this is just a resolution that we, again, ask for every year for the 4th of July parade. It's the same one we do at the Christmas parade also. This just activates City Ordinance 892 that authorizes us to prohibit parking and keep the roadway clear so that the parade can come down 4th Avenue.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief. All All right, that takes us to item number 18, executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. And with that, at 6:59, and we will return to exec session.
You need to sign those, don't you? Yeah. Chuck's gonna sign all these.
I'm gonna pick them up.
Great, good deal. Gosh, yeah, I'll see you in the morning, actually, I might be waiting. Yeah, looks like it, geez.
Graduation, you get 2 by 8.
Oh, well, it's perfect time. But we're
Keith's coming in.
Bye, see ya, thank you again, appreciate it, thank you.
He can sit